Hi, you guys, and welcome to episode 7 of the Plot Twist podcast. My name is Catherine, and I'm coming to you from Berlin, Germany, which is where I grew up and where I now live with my husband and our 3 kids. This is a slow fashion podcast focusing primarily on knitting. You can find me on the internet as on Instagram. You can find me on the internet right here, but you can find me on Instagram as Katharina Knits and on Ravelry as frauchrist. I'm going to link both of those places down below in the show notes where you can find all the things that I talk about here. Yeah, the show notes are going to be right there waiting for you. Okay, so, guys, okay. 2 weeks ago, whenever it was that I spoke to you last, I had a sort of a special episode up focusing on my fall sweaters. And that was really fun to record. It was also fun to like pull them all out of the closet and just have them in front of me. Yeah, so that was a fun one for me. I hope for you too. But today we're back with like a regular sort of episode where I show you what all I've been making during those last few weeks. And now it has sort of like piled up because I couldn't talk about these things last time around. And I'm surrounded by works in progress and also small little finished objects. So this is kind of the work in progress episode, I'm afraid. I've not been a monogamous knitter over the last few weeks, is all I'm going to say about that. And that's okay. I get to be. I never used to be one, but I sort of fell into that habit of like knitting pretty monogamously on something. And over the last few weeks, that just didn't work for me anymore. Mainly because I think that's what it is. Mainly because I didn't have much knitting time. I was like a few minutes here and a half an hour in the evening, and that was about it. And then I think I picked projects that fit my mindset at any given moment. Like, yeah. I have so far resisted, however, not yet cast on the big cozy Cardi or whatever it's called by Andrea Mowry, the new one that's just come out. That is so gorgeous. And when I think I said that last time around in the sweater episode. So whenever I've cleared some needles, that's going to be the next big project. But I want to have, I think, 2 sweaters of the needles before I do that. So as to maintain a little bit of a balance. But okay, so let's not get ahead of ourselves here. So the big cozy Cardi is something that I'm going to talk about when I actually knit on it. Now I'm only dreaming about it. That's okay. And I cast on like seasonal stuff, which you will get to see in a minute. I'm back to my somewhat clumsy setup where I need to look up to our TV because I, have the image up there where I can see myself and where I can see whatever I'm showing you. So when I show something, I might be glancing up, which is slightly awkward and not perfect, but I'm working on a solution, and it's not the too distant future that we're talking about here. And for now, things are what they are, and we're just gonna have to like deal with that. I am sipping on some black tea, my usual black tea, out of a mug that is by, what's it called? It's handcrafted, as you can see, Red Hot Pottery. Red Hot Pottery from New Mexico. I got this in a Fibre Share package from before COVID, not too long before COVID, but it was still before. Isn't that beautiful? I have to turn it that way. I love the mug. And Kim, who gave this to me, maybe Kim, you're watching, in which case, hi. I am using this on a regular basis. This was a beautiful Fibre Share package, which I'm still sort of like dreaming about. I'm dreaming of. I'm using the things that she sent me very often, and they always bring me joy. So this is one of them. This is the mug that I got in the last Fibre Share round that I ever participated in. I don't know if they're actually doing that now. Would actually be fun to participate again. Oh man, it might be fun. If you're not familiar, so Fibre Share is you sign up online and then you get assigned a partner somewhere in the world. You can choose domestic or international, but that I think it only refers to where you are shipping, and you can receive a package from wherever in the world. And I have been partnered up with people that I received from Germany and the States, I think. Is that right? I hope I'm not forgetting anyone. And yes, no, that's right. Three people from the States sent me stuff, and one round of Fibre Share was from Germany. Yeah. And I think I sent to France and Norway, Canada, and some other place, probably the States. Oh man, I don't know now. It doesn't matter anyway. But so I participated in 4 rounds of Fibre Share. That was always great fun. And I think they stopped doing it over COVID, and I don't know that they ever got back to it. I have to check, actually. Maybe I can put this in the show notes for you if you're interested in that. So anyways, cheers. Drinking black tea. That's basically what I wanted to say with that. Okay, I have a finished object to show you. And these are my Rainbow Connection socks. I want to say that there are like 2 versions of these. One is the unblocked and the other is the one on a sock blocker, which I have to say it's the first time in my life that I put a sock on a sock blocker, and this is not a real sock blocker. I cut this out of a cardboard box, because I don't, unpopular knitting opinion, I don't see a point in buying a sock blocker. Is that weird? I never felt like I needed one, but podcasting, it sort of makes sense to have one. So this is the sock in question, which now I realize is not quite centered on this thing. But anyway, so this is a Rainbow Connection sock. These are the Rainbow Connection socks, designed by Kay of the Crazy Sock Lady. I think it's a beautiful design because look at how over the instep you have this beautiful slip stitch pattern, and then on the back of the leg and then on the sole of the foot you have these stripes. So you have vertical and horizontal stripes meeting. That's where I need to look. I look completely in the wrong direction. I'm sorry. I haven't done this in a few days. So. And we had COVID in between, my oldest son and I, because that's what I told you last time, right? That my oldest son was ill, and then because we already had it in February, all of us. And now I was the only other person to get sick, but sick is putting it quite strongly. So I had a positive test, but I was really fine. So, but that sort of messed up everything organization-wise in the household, because like everybody was home all the time. Actually, now that the kids are out of the house, it's not that they are so old, but now the boys are gone with the grandma because it's the holidays now. We're in fall holidays, and my daughter is at daycare. So my kids are ages 1 through 7, and it's the first time in I think 3 weeks that I'm alone in the house. That's why I may seem a little confused, because it's been very confusing over those last few weeks. There's been a lot going on, so bear with me if I seem a little on the edge, sort of. Not on the edge, but I don't know, confused, just confused. Anyway, so this is the sock. This is these are the Rainbow Connection socks by Kay of the Crazy Sock Lady. I used a 2.5 millimeter needle, which is, no, hold on, 2.25. Is that what I said? Yeah, that's right. That's right. So that's a US size 1 needle. I have a little cheat sheet from my local yarn store, which I can now refer to. It looks like a stocking to me because it looks so huge on the sock blocker, but it isn't actually so big, right? This looks pretty big now too, but that's, yeah. I love that both of those socks, see, this is the one in the back, start with a red tone. So this sock here in the back is slightly more berry toned red, in a slightly more berry toned red, and the other here is a little more rusty, has something of a rusty orange to it, but still it transitions from red to a purpley blue in both cases, see. And then it moves back to red, so that it serves as a sort of a frame. Does that make sense to you? So that blue is in the middle, and it's framed in both cases on with the red, or the variations thereof. That I really enjoy that. I don't mind mismatching socks at all. I don't at all mind them, so much so that it never occurred to me that people might, you know, not enjoy mismatched socks. It really didn't until a relatively short time ago, when I became aware of that, of the fact that that might actually be a thing, when I started watching podcasts a few years ago, and people said, these don't match, but I don't care. And I thought, oh, why would you? And now I feel the urge to like say, I love mismatching socks. I never thought that could be an issue. Even though I understand why people might not like it, but these don't match and they do match, right? So that's sort of neat, I thought. Anyways, these are done, and immediately I felt the urge to cast on another pair of Rainbow Connection socks because they're great fun, and so I did. And these are, well, I'm going to show you the colors, and you can see for yourselves, but I pulled out from my sock yarn stash 2 yarns that I'm not overly in love with, and that I thought, however, would pair nicely together. And that was the thought. They might actually be a good match. And also the other thought was, and then I'm not going to have to deal with those again, because I will have found a project for them, and I get to use up that yarn, or at least most of it, I hope. A good portion of it. So there's less of yarn that I don't actually know what to do with, that I have to deal with. Okay, I'm sorry. I had to change the setup a little bit because of something with my camera. So I'm sorry. There was a little hiccup. I'm back now. I'm back to talking about the yarn that I don't love, but I thought when I put it together, it could actually work. Ooh, no, brace yourselves. That's it. That's it. That's the yarn I'm talking about. This stripy yarn and this, well, pink yarn that I ordered with a bunch of these. That's Jawohl Superwash. That's a good old German sock yarn. And I ordered a bunch of those colors for a different project that I'm going to talk about in a second. And, well, let's just say the color, this is not what I imagined the color would be. But I thought these two could work together. And I think they sort of do. And now I'm so far along with the sock that I'm not going to change my mind. It's a colorful affair. And where can you just go for it if not in a sock, right? So that's what I did. Hold on. I'm just trying to arrange this so I can show you the actual sock. Hold on. There you go. Whoop. That's what it looks like, sort of. So again, this is the Rainbow Connection sock pattern with these, with the two sort of, so it's a stripes meeting, right? I just like that effect. I chose this pink as the main color to go for the cuffs and the heels, and I just did a heel flap and gusset decreases up right here. See? And now I have actually knit my way just this morning all the way to the top, and I'm ready to start decreasing for the toes. So I'm going to do that in pink again, right? And I sort of like it. It looks a little flimsy on camera now. It looks a little weird. It's not so bad. I don't think it looks so bad in real life. It's just having this still on the needles, right? So this is what it looks like from what the front looks like, the pattern section, and this is what it looks like from the back. And I had issues sort of with these stripes that would here where the contrast would be so low, because the this is light gray color that's in there in that sock yarn, and that patterned sock yarn, which I don't know what that is. It's just I had it without a ball band in my stash. I don't know. I thought it was a little low contrast. I don't like low contrast. If it's like some sort of color work situation, or even like here stripy pattern. But then I thought, okay, so I'm going to go for it for a while, because you see that a pattern establishes, right? You have the blue, gray, blue, red, gray, red, blue, gray, blue, and so on, right? And I think that sort of alleviates that headache a little bit. I don't know. Yeah, I like it fine. And it's a fun project to knit on. And I think this pattern is actually perfect for just cases like that, where you think you can pair two fun colors together, or two colors that you don't really know what else to do with. And then they might actually work. And a colorful sock has never hurt anyone. So these are my Rainbow Connection socks, again knit on 2.25 millimeter needles, which I just learned is US size 1. Okay, that's one sock work in progress. And then there's another new one that I cast on. Sorry, now I have to go through some paper crinkling to show you my yarn. And that is sort of a special yarn because I had a birthday. My birthday was about almost a month ago. Goodness, yeah. At the end of, almost the very end of September. And my friend Francie, hi, if you're watching, which I know that you are, so hi. She gave me yarn. And one is a really fun one because I've only ever heard people talk about it and never actually used it. And that is Rochbat's Wollmeise. Can you see that? They are German dyers, I think from Bavaria, and very well known. Many people, I've heard many people use Wollmeise and talk about them, their yarn, and I've always thought, like, what is all the fuss about? And now I get to try the yarn out myself, and because I wanted to so badly, I got a mini, 50 grams. So not a mini, but it was a very lightweight. This is supposed to be a lace weight, which I don't think it is that fine of a yarn, but it is pretty fine fingering weight. So it might be a heavy lace weight, I don't know. Wollmeise Birdie I think is that sort of yarn, maybe the base. And the color is Tief im Vulkan, so that means like deep inside the volcano, which is a fun name. It's 100% merino wool, 50 grams, and they come to 262 meters or 287 yards, which, come to think of it, yeah, that would be lace weight, wouldn't it? Anyway, that's the yarn. I'm going to show it to you, and I wanted to cast on so badly one night that I didn't sneak into the hallway to get the ball winder to make all the noise and wake up the kids so that I could wind the yarn in the kitchen, but I hand wounded. So wound. Oh man, this is another. It's like head hat. Wound and wound. No, I hand wounded. I think that's how you pronounce it, right? I'm sorry. There you go. This is it. It looks sort of more moody for me off camera. Yeah, it looks, for me, it's maybe that's a better representation right here. Yeah. Well, that's interesting. This is interesting now, the color, because my friend Francie, she said it's a brown tone. And I don't at all agree. I'm sorry, Francie, I don't. Because for me, this is clearly aubergine. clearly, like it's a dark purple. And yes, it has sort of a brown quality to it somewhere because it's a variegated yarn, ever so slightly, but to me this is a very, very, very dark brownish sort of purple. You see what you want to see, right? I'm not a brown person, so that it's purple to me, and she is a person who likes brown, so it's not purple to her, but it's brown. For me, yeah, well, it's not as red as it looks on the screen, but for me this is clearly an aubergine color, which I love. That's one color. And she gave me another color, which is Regia Premium Silk, 4-ply, your standard sock weight, I would say, fingering weight. That's the ball band. So it's 55% wool, 25 polyamide, and 20% silk. So it is very soft, and I assume it's going to be very sturdy with the silk in it. It's a very light blush, or is it blush or tan? Tan sort of pink. Again, this gets a bit of a yellow vibe on screen, but it's really a very, very light pink. There's no yellow in here at all. And I paired these two together, and I thought that was such a beautiful contrast. If she gives me those two together, I'm going to use them together. And here's what I did. I cast on for a sock. I thought this is so soft and sort of luxurious. This is going to be a very fun sock for me, not one that I'm going to gift. I think the other one, the Rainbow Connection sock, I'm going to gift, and maybe also the ones that I finished, probably also those. They're going to be gifts for someone, but not because I don't like them, but because I don't tend to keep that many socks. But I'm going to keep these. So here they are. What am I doing? So I'm using my Chaogu red lace fixed needles. I knit socks on magic loop unless I have to use DPNs. Yeah, that's what I always do. These are 2.25 millimeters. Also, like I said, a US size 1. I cast on probably 60 because that's what I always do. And this is a Hermione's Everyday Sock pattern. See? Okay, Hermione's Everyday Sock. It's a free pattern on Ravelry. I put a fun little... I did the heel flap and gusset, which I'm going to show you in a second. And I put a fun little stitch marker on here. Can you see that? Right, so this just marks the end of the gusset decreases, and I went for a heel flap. And when I turned the heel, so this I knit in just the Vollmeise apparently lace weight yarn, but I don't think it looks too like delicate. And for the turning of the heel, so for that little triangle, no, not triangle, but that trapeze, that is the turned heel. I held, as you can see, I held both of the yarns together to make it more sturdy and more hard wearing. And that I'm really happy with that. I have to say, it really is much thicker, a much thicker fabric. I mean, obviously, how wouldn't it be? But I'm positive this is going to give a little extra strength to that entire heel. And then, yeah, I am now knitting my way towards the tip of towards the toes, and then I'm going to finish and knit the toe section in that aubergine color. So it's going to be contrasting heels, cuffs, and toes, right? And a little marling, that's sort of extra. So that's a fun project that I really couldn't wait to cast on. I think I cast on the day after my birthday. I don't remember exactly, but I sort of did it ASAP. So that is sock whip number 2. And now I have somewhat an in-between category because I have knit on 2 different projects where I have like finished objects, but the entire thing is not finished. And so the first thing lives in my grandmother's handbag. I inherited some of my, a bunch of my grandmother's handbags when she passed away about, well, 10 years ago. Over 10 years ago now. 10 and a half. Yeah, so I couldn't part with those, and I kept them. And there are some that I actually use as handbags, or one. And I thought the others might be fun for projects, to like keep them as project bags. And they are. They are. And okay, this is a fun project. This is the, oh man, I wanted to pick out one of the others to show you, which now I forgot. But I'm going to do that just before Advent, because this is an Advent project. I'm going to show you my bag with the yarns so that you can get a sense of like the color palette that I assembled, which is not assembled. Like I didn't put anything together. I just pulled the yarns out that would work for that particular project. So here you go. That's all the yarn that I kind of put together and threw in that bag. I'm not necessarily going to use all of those, but I might. And that fun project that I'm talking about is a Julevotter advent calendar. So these are 24 mini, teeny tiny little mittens that you knit with the numbers on, and in the end you have an advent calendar for your kid. And this is a free, it's a free pattern, so I'm going to show you the charts just so you get an idea of what it looks like. Right, so that's Julevotter. My daughter is, she will turn 2 in January, so I thought this is the year that she has to have her own sort of little advent calendar, even if it's more so she feels like included in that special thing in the morning when the kids get up and they rush to their advent calendars, because I've knit the boys each one of these little advent calendars, and they will be placed in the morning. They will find them on their place at the table, like where they sit. They will always like run there and see what's in their little mitten, in their mitten calendar. That's what they call them. And I have knit my way through days 1, 2, and 3. Aren't they so cute? Aren't these so cute? I love them. They're so fun. So this is, and I'm not a color work native, sort of. Like this doesn't come natural to me. It's just, color work I think is the hardest for me in knitting. Of the things that I've knit so far, color work is really like the tension. I find that tricky, but it is what it is. This is the mitten with a little 1 on it, and that's what it looks like on the back. And see, I'm really excited about those. This is number 2. And each mitten is different on the back. Like they each have different patterns on the back. And this is little number 3. I'm going to just steam block them. So I'm going to, in the end, when everything is finished, I'm going to put them in a damp towel, like put it on the bottom and on top, and put them just in between all of the mittens, and then iron over that for a moment, not for too long, because then you will damage the stitches, or the fabric, but just for a minute so that the stitches can relax a little bit and the color work will open up a bit more. That's them. They're so fun. This is the third calendar that I'm knitting, so both of my boys have one. And I am finding that I get better and better with this, like every time around, which is no surprise really. But I'm also finding that now that I've knit in the meantime, ever since I knit the first calendar, about 6 years ago, I assume, I have obviously knit more color work in other projects. And I'm finding that when the circumference is so teeny tiny, because this is 13 stitches on each side, which is not a lot at all, right? When you have to like finagle, another one of those that I never know how to pronounce. When you have to maneuver the two strands and make it so that they don't peek out from behind, so that you carry the yarn on the inside, and that they don't peek out on the edge, where you always with these little ones have that ridge, right? Even this time I'm Kitchenerring the tops, which I didn't do with the other ones, so I just pulled the yarn through. But I think the Kitchener is nicer, and it gives it just a smidge more room, which is nice because they're teeny tiny. So with this small circumference, it's so much harder to maintain an even tension and not have things like this happening, where all of a sudden here, you have like a stitch that is just larger than all the others, and larger than it should be, right? And larger that, yeah, even though I try and pull the yarn so that it's nice and snug, but you don't want to pull too tight, because then all of it will pucker and the stitches tend to like disappear. Again, this is something that steam blocking may help with, or will definitely help with, but still, I feel like, why is this still happening? But it is what it is, and I think this is a gift for my daughter, and she will have this forever. Like, I will always put something in this every Advent, and I think and hope she's going to enjoy that little calendar for what it is, and nobody is going to care, and she will not sit there and say, oh mom, this one stitch is slightly bigger than the other ones, why is that? At any rate, this is my project, living in my little bag, which reminds me of my grandmother. So in terms of legacy and the origins of knitting and what we do, that's also fun. So it was, I had to keep her bags for handbags, and she did for project bags, and she didn't have that many. It's not like I kept a whole big selection, but they're all really nice leather bags. So and they remind me of her so much. And I mean, she taught me how to knit, and every sock that I knit, I remember how we sat in her kitchen, in my grandparents' kitchen, and she taught me how to knit the sock. And when I learned how to, because when I knit in the round, I don't hold my yarn in the left hand, but in the right hand. But I don't throw it. I would still, flick it, or just pick it up with the needle. I'm not going to move my hand. I'm only moving the needle. And I had to relearn this, because when I knit with the yarn, when I started knitting in the round, which is only when I learned how to knit a sock at age 12 or 13, that would have been, and I held the yarn in my left hand, the sock would spiral, because apparently I had too strong of a tension, and I would actually pull the fabric over, so that things weren't aligned anymore, so that the leg would spiral, and then I knit the what's it called, the heel, and then it would spiral again, so that the tip of the toe, that the toes weren't really aligned, but the sock had somewhat shifted or moved, so it was somewhat in a weird shape, not anatomically correct, if you will. So I had to learn to knit with the yarn in my right hand, to like pull in the opposite direction, so as to correct the spiraling effect, if you will. And when I did that, it only took me like 2 days, I think, but it was like learning how to knit all over again. And my grandmother, I would be so annoyed and be like, oh, I'm never going to learn this. This doesn't work. I would be so, annoyed with myself and with the process and with the yarn and with that, everything, the world. And she would be like, you're going to be fine. Just keep doing it. It's okay. And with every sock that I knit, I think of that. Whenever I knit in the round, also in a sweater, and I'm like, oh yeah, no, hold on. I need to carry the yarn in my right hand. I think of that moment, right? Or those like 2 days that we spent in the kitchen, and I tried to learn to knit socks with the yarn in the other hand, or I learned to knit in the round, so that it wouldn't look funny, and that the item would actually be wearable. So when all of these things, like, she is still so much there, and I can so vividly remember these moments that it's only fitting that when I knit something for my daughter, my grandmother is kind of there also for my boys, right? But that female line is, I think, I don't know, it's just a strong line. I feel that very strong connection to the women in my family, but I don't want to say that. I also feel very connected to the men in our family. Scratch that. Okay, and I have another one of these projects, like I said, that is not yet finished, but I have little finished objects, and that's a crochet project. I have been crocheting snowflakes, as you can see. So this I crocheted twice. I have 2 of these and one of this one. And I thought it would be fun attaching them to presents, or tie them on, or like put a hanger on there and just put them on a tree or in the window. But what I actually am doing these for is, so I saw that in a window display last year, where for a tea shop, where a lady had crocheted all sorts of snowflakes in different colors, not like colorful colors, but there was beige in there, there was a little brown in there, there was gray in there, or maybe even a very light icy blue, all sorts of scraps apparently that she had, and probably also different yarn weights from what I could gather. And I think there was also very light yellow in there, like very light, cool colors. And I thought that was fun, a fun sort of color palette to begin with. And she had put all of them on a string, like they would be in like this far apart, and they would be on a string that went from the very top of her shop window all the way to the floor. And then she would space them so that the entire window was covered in snowflakes that she had crocheted. And that looked so beautiful. And I thought, oh man, that is perfect. And now I don't have that sort of area where I could display them in that manner. And when I hang them in front of our balcony down to the floor, first thing that's going to happen is my toddler is going to pull on the strings. And the second thing that's going to happen is that everybody's going to be cross with me because you can't go out on the balcony because these things are in the way. But I thought I want to assemble enough of these little snowflakes so that I can actually string them together and hang them in the window. Maybe in between the 2 balcony doors, because we have 2. This is an old building here, and in Berlin you have these old, I'm looking at them just while I'm looking there, these old like wooden frames that let a whole lot of air through, by the way, and that are incredibly beautiful and nostalgic, sort of, if not necessarily all that functional. But I could hang them not down to the floor, but as far as the window goes, because like say 2/3 of the door are wood, and the 1/3 of the door is wood, and 2/3 of the door would be glass windows. So to just cover the window area with those, to like have them hanging there, or just put them in front of, I don't know, the kids' room windows, something like that. Just whether or not so much in the way, attach them to the frame is what I'm saying basically. But I want to just collect a handful of these little snowflakes to make that sort of a display and see whether whether I can kind of replicate that, or you know, not replicate, but make my own version. But I thought those were so cute, and I found online you can find so many free crochet snowflake patterns. Like, just search this as search engine search or on Ravelry, and you're gonna find so many things. And I just started somewhere and just tried 2 patterns. So it was so cute and fun and very fast. Like, it's a I don't know, a half an hour project maybe. So I thought, if I can crochet 1 a night, my pile is going to grow faster than I can say it. Of course, now I'm not crocheting 1 a night, just like I'm not knitting 1 of those tiny little mittens a day, because I just don't have that much knitting, crafting, making time right now, which is just what it is. But it's not Advent yet. And also, who says I'm going to have to finish all of this project this year? This can be a project like a blanket for many years. And if I want to like hang them on a tree and put them on gifts and stuff, I'm going to have to crochet so many of those that it's inevitably going to take forever. And I just have this cotton yarn from, goodness, how are they called? Sustrene Grene? I don't know. From this little shop right there. The yarn's called Anna and Clara's 100% cotton organic. And it's sort of an eco cotton yarn. And I got many of those for my dishcloths that I make. And I thought, I'm going to pull the white one out to use for my snowflakes. And so this is a 2.5 millimeter hook. Don't know which brand. It's also from my grandmother's, you know, tools, supplies from her stuff. It's her old hook. And I'm using this. And I'm really not picky with crochet hooks. They are a thing where I don't know what the fuss is about with a different crochet hook. Maybe because I haven't had a fancy one, probably. But I use these ones or just the metal things. Like, I don't ever buy, I've never bought a fancy crochet hook. There you go. And when I spoke to you last about the following project, which lives in this project bag, hand sewn by me, I was sort of stuck. And I'm wearing the stripes sweater today by Andrea Mowry. I'm not going to bore you with the details, but instead I'm going to link the project page down below if you're interested in that entire thing and the design and the yarns that I used. But I've mentioned them, I think, in every episode that I've done so far of this podcast. So watch basically whichever episode and you're going to find all the information there. And for those folks that have been watching for a while, I don't want to talk about that sweater, that version of the sweater yet again. But I talked at greater length about wanting to cast on another striped sweater, and showed it to you last time around. And I was sort of insecure about color placement. And rightly so, because when I looked at it at the footage later on, I thought, oh no, it can't remain like that. So I pulled out the gray that I had, in case you remember, and the very colorful stripe. I only had 4 stripes, and I re-knit the rest. And this is what I came up with. This very crumply yoke is what I came up with. Okay. So this is my little, what's it called? Collar. This is a folded over collar, followed by this green, and so I was at that point where I had these 2 and then another 2 stripes, which I pulled out. So I put in this lighter color sorry, I'm gonna have to speak so that you can see my mouth. I put in the lighter color, and then the one from that color again, 2 more colors, and the darker down here is the color again. So I'm having a language day today. And this is what I'll try to do. So none of the stripes is, I think, going to repeat itself, except obviously potentially in the on the sleeves. But the main color, if you will, which is Dementor's Kiss, the Dementor's Kiss colorway by Molly of the Homespun House, which she still carries in her shop, will be repeated every third stripe, sorry. So Dementor's Kiss colorway, 2 stripes, and then it repeats again, 2 stripes, and then it repeats again, because I thought maybe that's a way of giving it a little bit of, the garment, a little bit of a structure, or the eye, a little bit of rest. So as to not accumulate like all sorts of colors, because it turns out it's not, well, this may not come as a surprise to you, but I thought I'm just going to put them in there. It's going to be a stripy fun sweater, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to overthink this, but it turns out if you don't intentionally place your stripes, it's going to look weird, and you might end up not wanting to wear the garment, and that's not at all what I wanted. So I thought I'm going to have to be more intentional with this. So if I repeat this color throughout the garment again and again, I thought maybe that gives it a bit of a structure and a sort of a rhythm to the color change, and gives the eye the chance to like grasp everything that's happening, right? And provide a little bit of rest and harmony, I hope. So that's at least what I'm going for. And so this is what I'm going to try, and I thought I can always rip back if I don't like it, but I do have to say I like this much better than the version before. This is so much better. And yeah, so that's that. I think it's going to be fun. Now it's very crumply because I like to use small cords, and also because it's unblocked and everything, but I think that's okay. Maybe I will change my mind. And I've sort of lost steam on this project for now, but mainly because I really want to get that little advent calendar for my daughter ready, and also because I enjoyed these little snowflakes, and also because I really haven't had that much time to knit, which is totally okay. I don't want to complain, but knitting a sweater is, for me, is especially fun if you have like 2 hours in the evening where you can just knit, especially now that this is a round and around and around sort of project. Yeah, but I will pick up steam with this one. Now that I see it, I really like it. I have to say, I think this is good. It's okay if there are these like really colorful stripes in there, like this pink and the green, for example. I like that. I think it's going to work, but we'll see. I might reevaluate. I'm quickly going to tell you what the colors are. So I already said this is a Homespun House in the Dementor's Kiss colorway. This is a Homespun House in the Juniper colorway. I don't know if it's still a colorway that she dyes. This is a Homespun House in a colorway that's no longer available. It was Christmas at Hogwarts from before COVID. I don't know, 2017 maybe even. The same, so that's the repeating stripe. This is her Comfort colorway, which she still has, and this was an Advent mini from, again, before COVID, 2017 or 18, must have been 2017. It should have been. Anyway, it doesn't matter because it's no longer being dyed. If this was a colorway, I would have definitely bought it, but well, it is what it is. So that's my striped sweater. What's the needle size, you're asking? Good question. I think this is a 3.5. But who knows? This might be 3.5 millimeter needle, which would translate into a US 4. But if you need to know, go check out my Ravelry page, because I will have all the information right there. And next time I talk about this in depth, I will definitely know more. No, but I'm pretty positive. This is a 3.5, and I'm using a 3mm for all the edging. And 3mm, that would be a 2.5 US. Okay, right. So that's that. Going back into my sort of wintry project bag with the deer on it. I don't know. I love it. Okay, and the last work in project, and another sweater project, which you've not seen before, is my sea glass sweater. That's been on a hiatus, and that's a lot to manage, because if you know about the sea glass sweater, and I think you might, because everybody now seems to be knitting it or have finished one. I'm sort of behind, because I started all excited, and then it's a lot of stitches, all in color work, might I add, but it's 1x1 color work, so it's not so hard to maintain an even tension, I might say, as in these little mittens. At least for me, that's my color work experience. Hold on. And it's hard to show this project because, again, it is on a very short because it's on a very short cord. These are also 3.5mm needles, and you have all these 5,000 ends dangling. So that's it. Ta-da! Ooh, this looks purple on screen. It is much more light pink in real life. This might be more it. Yeah, so this is my sea glass. I'm going to talk about the little hiccup that I had with that in a second. Before, I'm going to show you my main color, because I'm going for the version where you have a main color and then every row you add in another color, or you change that, right? My main color is the Nurture colorway by Molly of a Homespun House. So that's, there you go. That's a very light, dusty pink. It may, again, like all the things today, seem richer on camera maybe than it is in real life. I had admired this on her Instagram, and then I bought, maybe about a year ago, I bought a 50-gram skein from her to try it out, and I think this should be the non-superwash version. No, it's not. This is her soft sock base, so fingering weight yarn, 75 merino, 25% nylon, superwash. Yeah, okay, so it doesn't matter though, but I ordered a small skein to like see the color in person and try it out, and I knit this into the yoke until I ran out. And I thought, oh, well, it doesn't matter. I have another yarn, looks like this. That used to be a club yarn, also from Molly of a Homespun House, and from years ago. And I never knew what to do with it because it's not a color that it's a color that I enjoy, but I don't necessarily know what to do with it on its own. And I thought, okay, so I'm just going to switch these colors. But then I figured, or I realized that changing this main color, even if the change is very subtle, is not a good idea. It didn't look good. And then I had to order more of this Nurture colorway to continue knitting. Oh my goodness. So this on screen, this looks very much more flashy. So I don't think it's that vibrant in real life. It's much more muted and dusty. It's not as pink. Maybe I can take a picture for Instagram where you can see the colors as they are. It's not as busy and not as bright. It's not as pink but really more sort of a mauvey rose tone. Um, and yeah, and the other hiccup that so reordering yarn, so that's relatively easy, right? But the other thing, and you can't really tell because this is not, oh, this is not, it's not, I cannot show you because this is really on this tight little scrunched up cord, but I think it is really big. Hold on. If I put this where it should be, I've tried this thing on, right? I put on a second needle and tried it on, and I think it is incredibly big on me. So this is my, I separated for the sleeves. I think it's going to, I'm not going to be able to show it on camera, but I think it's going to have a lot of positive ease, more than it should. I don't know why that is. Also, I don't care why that is because or I sort of do, but now that's the situation that's there. It is what it is, right? So now I'm going to have to figure out what I'm going to do. And that's why, again, I was sort of hesitant to keep knitting on that project because I thought it's a lot of work. Like the rows are very long and I'm only knitting, I think, a size 3. So already it was, yeah, I'm knitting a size 3. So yeah, it's very long rows that you're dealing with. Even for size 3, which is one of the smaller sizes. So I don't know, but and that's okay, right? But I was not sure if I was going to like it in the end. And it was sort of supposed to look like that, but even more importantly, whether I was going to enjoy that, the fit, right? But I figured because this is where I separated for the sleeves, I might knit another, I don't know, 2 centimeters so as to give it a little bit of a structure, and then, or maybe 1, and then put another set of needles in there again, put it on and see how I like it, because then I will be able to tell a little bit more. If you only have the yoke, I find it very hard to say whether, you could say whether something's big enough, but it's hard for me to say whether something might end up being too big, because when you have a tiny little bit of fabric on the underarm, that I think is more helpful in determining, you know, whether that garment is actually going to look nice, and have the right drape for that sort of slightly oversized fit, or even more oversized. I don't know what it's going to turn out to be, but so that was what was holding me up. Also, it's not a very portable project in the sense that you have to, like, the main color, I chose the easier option, right? I'm carrying the main color throughout, the nurture colorway, but still every, I can show you that section where I change colors, like every round, the contrast color changes. So it's nothing you want to knit on the train or on the playground. Not that I spent much time on a train, but, right? So this situation right here, yeah, I don't know. It's nothing that I even grab for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, because then I'm going to have to need I'm going to need my scissors, and then they're not in the kitchen where that project might be. And then I'm going to have to decide like which yarn to put in and go through my little bag and search for the right, the yarn that I want to put in next. I'm going to have to cut the one and then put in the next one, and make sure that, because I don't change the color, the contrasting colors all in the same spot, but some might change right here, some might change right here, some right in the middle, so that it's easier to weave them in and not as, oops. That's the downside of these small cords. You can't really show anything without the needle falling out. But see, so this is the section where I would change colors, and right, and you don't, it isn't as visible, I think. Oops. Can you see that? I think it's okay. Like, it does, there is no one ridge where you see, oh, this is where she always changes colors. I think it's okay. It's going to be a labor of love to weave in all the ends. But do you see what I mean? Like, it's not a very portable project in the sense that I'm going to pick it up for 10 minutes and I'm going to maneuver all the stuff around the house or with me, or I'm not going to knit on this in the car. Not if we're driving for like 20 minutes. If we were to go on a longer trip, a few hours, yeah, maybe, then it would make sense, but not, this is a project that I will pick when I know the kids are in bed. I've cleaned the house, I've done my exercise that I have to do, and then I'm going to sit down and knit on this for at least 45 minutes or an hour, right? Then it makes sense. But so this is a slow project in that respect, and that's okay. Because also, like, it makes it an intentional project. And I love that my scrappy project, which maybe if you've watched earlier videos, you will know, are my favorites, really. Because you make something beautiful and lasting and worthwhile, and just a garment out of scraps, out of leftovers, of things that you don't know what to do with. And that is such a good metaphor and exercise and for life, really. And to take time with this project of all projects, that makes sense to me. To say, no, I'm going to do this one especially intentionally. I'm going to do this when I sit down and know that I can relax into the project, and not have the scrappy, no waste project sort of be the on the go one, the hectic on the go project. So somehow this makes sense. I love the look of this. I really have to say, I think this is going to be so cool. And again, maybe not, it's slightly more dusty, mauvey, rosy, and not as pink as it seems to be on screen now. But yeah, I think it's really so fun. Just the play with color, and like I said in another episode, we adults, it's so important that we play, right? It's so important that we find something that we can play with. And for me, I think it's really color play in my knitting is something that I really that really re-energizes me in a way. Yeah. I mean, if you haven't cast on one of these, I highly suggest you do, because I mean, it's easy peasy color work. Like, you don't have to be a color work pro, and neither am I, so you can do it. It's just one by one. You do not have to manage floats. You do not have to manage carrying your yarn and not getting tangled up, or not carrying your yarn, and then you have this situation where you just have a long float over 8 or 9 stitches dangling in the back on the inside of your sweater. None of this is going to happen. It's just a fun project, and I think it would even look cool in 2 colors, or in one gradient, if you had one gradient skein or self-striping and one solid color. That could look really cool, or 2 gradients, or the same gradient but you use them from the opposite ends, so they say one goes from blue to yellow and the other from yellow to blue, and then they go in the opposite direction, if you know what I mean. You have so many options with these, or you can get really crazy and use 2 colors for one round and then change both of those for the next round, so then it gets extra colorful. I love the ones where people have a sort of color palette in mind, like I do here. I have chosen all of my scraps that were somewhere in the red, purple, pink family, right? And assembled those. There is an occasional sort of peak of blue in there, just because the yarn had blue speckles, and I like that. I like the effect it has. But that was really it. I only whenever I change colors, I'm like, oh, now it might be time for a lighter pink again. Now it might be time for a very purple color again. But there is no rhyme and reason for whatever it is that I do. But I do want to show you my project bag because that's so fun. I don't know if that's no, that's the one from last year, I think. So it doesn't close all the way because it's technically speaking, the bag is too small for the project, but I don't care. My friend Claire from Australia, hi Claire, has made this bag, and for my advent, we do an advent calendar swap, and she included my last year's advent calendar in here. So she wrapped everything up individually and then sewed the bag herself and then put it in there. And I have another one of her bags from an earlier calendar from, I think now 3 years ago, with a very similar sort of Christmassy motif, but it's got a sloth on it. It's right there on the shelf, so which is what I'm looking over. And these are the kangaroos, the festive kangaroos. Aren't they so fun? So beautiful and so precious because handmade by her, and I really enjoy them very much. And I chose this little bag where I put her yarn after opening Everyday's parcel, Everyday's mini. I put them in these bags, and this is where I drew from when I collected all of the minis. So I thought, hold on, this is actually going to be the bag for that project, even though yes, it was clear that it was going to be too small, but I don't care. It's going to live in here anyway, so for as long as I can, fit it in. So that's the story of that sweater. I hope I didn't forget anything super important. I'm going to link the Ravelry page, and also I'm going to talk about this project again and again because you see this is going to be on the needles for a few minutes. I want to finish this sweater and my other striped sweater that I just showed you before I cast on this new cardigan by Andrea Mowry that I think is so stunning with the kimono sort of sleeves. In German you would say like bat sleeves, where that the big cozy cardi, I think is what it's called. I immediately bought the pattern, which I don't ever do, but I just knew I was going to knit it, and I know the yarn I'm going to pick, so the base, but not the base and the brand, but not the colors. So when I will have gotten them, I will talk to you about it. Okay, let's move on because I've been talking for so long. So as for mending, I did do some mending that I wanted to show you, but two of the things there isn't much to show. So my middle son, he had pajama pants that were just where the elastic was so stretched out that I put in a new one. It's an easy job, it's a quick job, but it makes such a difference it's like the entire pajama is new with that little fix. So I wanted to just say that I did that to encourage you that if you take like 15 minutes to mend something that is easy to do, quick to do, and something that is really a bother if you don't do it, because then the pants they really used to fall off his little body. It makes such a difference, and that piece will be so gratifying. That piece is complete with the job done, and it's so easy and so fast. So if you've got one of these things lying around, and many people do, I certainly have another handful of those mending jobs on my table, then just do them, because you're going to be so glad you did. A very similar project was my oldest son's pajama. Again, seems to be a theme, where the patch that I put on his knee, because he will, now on his fall holidays, he will kneel on the kids' room floor forever and play in his pajamas. He won't even bother and put on real clothes. So the knee was all worn through. I put on a patch a few months ago. Now the patch came off in some places, so I reattached it. Makes a huge difference. And there were holes like somewhere here the cuff area of his pajama, and they had gotten so big that he could put his finger through, which he did. And I said, don't you do that, because then the hole's only going to get bigger. And so I sewed that back into place, back together, sort of. I closed the hole, and now the pajama is just good as new. So a quick mend, and so really happy kids, and instant gratification, sort of. And then the one project that I actually did want to show you, I have to say I didn't find it, which I will blame on our 2 COVID weeks, but I don't know where it went. I can only imagine that I must have put it in the wrong box, and now I don't find it. But so about sort of a month and a half ago, there was a flea market at our kindergarten, which is just across the street. And so we went there, and my mother and I chose a beautiful dress for my daughter. Sort of a tan color with flowers on it. A dress that I thought was very elegant and yet sort of everyday material, right? And I thought it was just so pretty that I couldn't resist. It was such a beautiful dress. It was secondhand, so I thought, okay, this has already been made, so it has to be worn by someone. That's the only thing that really makes sense. And we bought it, and however, it's not going to fit her for, well, I want to say at least 3 years. So it was a bit of a stupid situation where I thought, I want to buy this dress, but which kid am I actually dressing here? Because she is not even 2 years old, and this is a dress that would maybe fit a 5-year-old or older, or an older kid, right? But it was so pretty, and I thought, I'm gonna buy it because I really wanted to. It was really so pretty and so beautiful, and I thought, oh man, one day she's going to fit in there, and it's going to be so fun. And at home, I realized that the hem had come undone almost all the way around. And so, okay, I took out my sewing machine, and thanks to my grandmother, who, again, same grandmother whose sewing supplies I have inherited, I had just the right color for that dress. And sewed across it, and it made such a difference. Like, so, again, such an easy job, such an easy fix, and the dress is good as new. And it's now, so the fun thing about it was I put it in a box, whichever box, because apparently it was the wrong one, but I put it in storage in the mended state. So I didn't put it in there thinking like, whenever she's going to fit in there, I'm going to take this out of storage and mend it, because that is going to be something that this would always have been on my mind. Maybe not, like, I wouldn't have thought about this all the time, but it's still, I would have put it away with the feeling that, oh man, but this job isn't done. This project isn't finished, right? And this is never a situation you can relax into. And so I thought, no, I'm going to be smart about this. I'm going to fix the dress now, because it's such an easy job. And if it weren't one, if the job is too big to do now, maybe I should have bought it in the first place, right? So not in the sense that I shouldn't have taken on that big of a mending job if I really don't at all have the time to mend it. So I thought, I'm going to do it now, then I'm going to put it in storage, and I did such a thorough job, apparently, that I couldn't find it. And I think maybe I did not put it in storage because I wanted to show you. So maybe I intentionally left it out, but in which case it must be hidden in plain sight. Yeah, because it must be somewhere. On the plus side, she's not going to fit in that dress for another handful of years, and in those interim years, the dress will definitely turn back up. It will not be lost forever. Anyway, so 3 little mending jobs that took, I don't want to say no time at all, but not much time, and that were really gratifying. And in the simplicity, is this the instant gratification, the things that you tend to not do even though they're so easy to do, those are the things that tend to hold me up, because of course often I don't do these jobs, and then I get really frustrated about them, and they are on my mind all the time. So take this, if you need that little nudge, let me just be the person to say, do it. You're going to be so happy. It's going to be so grateful to yourself for having done this little mending job. So, and now another thing I got for my birthday is a book that I wished for, that now again people in my social media bubble are reading like crazy, and that's Brene Brown's Atlas of the Heart. Atlas of the Heart. Atlas of the Heart. Yeah. This is amazing. People will have told you this by now. I'm not going to be the first person to tell you that this is a cool book, and this is a cool book. It's not a cool book. It's a good book. It's a necessary book. It's an essential book. It's a very wise, smart, good book. It's just really great. If you know Brene Brown, you know the sort of tone that this is written in, and you know where her wisdom sort of comes from. I really like her. I also really enjoy her podcast, her audio podcast, which has started again now. I've listened to many of her episodes, not all of them, but many, and often I've had like these aha moments, like when, for example, I'm a recovering perfectionist, and I've always had the feeling that getting out of perfectionism, if that is ever something that you can achieve, but managing your perfectionism in such a way that it doesn't dictate your every step, right? And doesn't become a straitjacket, right? It is, like, to me, it felt like getting out of an addiction, even though I've never struggled with addiction, but I thought, like with like more conventional addictions, but I thought if I felt like I was recovering from an addiction, because when I finished college, I was very burned out by my own perfectionism, and it was a really rough time for me. I may talk about this in the future, like in a different context, but it was just, I went into therapy for like getting out of my, of the mindsets that had gotten me into this incredible mess. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to not be so hard on myself, right? Because that's what perfectionism is. And it felt like recovering, or trying to recover from an addiction. And I was always so scared that I might fall back into the habits of perfectionism, and into that lifestyle, and into that mindset, because like perfectionism can be all of these things, right? And it's very sneaky. It finds a way of sneaking its way back into your life. And I always thought, I said that to people, I feel like an addict, like I feel like I'm recovering from an addiction. And in her podcast, it was only just this year that I listened to one episode, and now I can't really remember. I might see if I can find it. She was talking to a lady, and she said that she has always thought, Brene Brown has always thought, that perfectionism is an addiction. And when I heard this, I was walking in the street with like earphones in my ears. I was like, I couldn't believe it. I really wanted to stop everything and talk to the next person about this, because I thought, oh my God, this is turning my whole world upside down, because suddenly things make so much sense. And she said this is an addiction. She's always believed it's an addiction, and then she had, I think, some data that sort of supported that claim, or that idea. And I thought, oh, Brene, you are the best. Thank you for telling me that I have not been crazy for saying I feel like an addict, right? Coming clean, because that is exactly what I feel like. Continues to feel like that. Like this very intense process is a good 10 years ago now. And I still feel like I need to be careful and not fall back. And I feel how perfectionism is so sneaky and tries to weasel its way back into your life, right? And I always have to be on the lookout, and I always have to be very self-reflective and mindful and say, hold on, this is going in the wrong direction. I'm going to have to like pause that thought and see how I can resolve this and get rid of this perfectionism that is somewhere hidden in, whatever process or topic or relationship or, whatever, wherever it's hidden. So I hope this makes sense to you at all. But so she is someone that I think is just really amazing. And I think her work is very essential because that moment when she said that, and I thought, oh, so I'm not crazy. So this is really, because I had talked to like therapists about that, and none of them said, yeah, sure, that's what, perfectionism does. And then I thought maybe apparently my perception is wrong, but this is really what I felt. And then she said, no, I've always felt that this is, from that family, and it made a world of a difference to me. Now I've fallen into the rhythm of getting up at 5, sitting down with my tea and reading a few pages, and then I will write down some stuff that things in my life start making sense to me when I read this, right? I hear like the click, and I write down a few things so I don't forget. And yeah, so that's sort of what that's sort of the rhythm that I've fallen in with this book now. I hope I can maintain this rhythm of also like getting up so early, read, sip my tea, and then when my husband gets up, we get to talk a little before the kids get up. So yay, that's a rare occasion that we get to talk a few sentences without being interrupted, and then when he leaves, I will knit a few rows, or while we talk, I will knit a few rows on my socks that are there waiting for me, and that's a good way to get the day started. So this is a huge recommendation, even if you will certainly have heard of this book from someone else before, but I love it as much as everybody else, and I think Brené Brown is amazing. Right. So as for what I've been watching, we have been starting, yeah, that was right, watching the Harry Potter movies because, well, it's the season, right? I skipped the first movie, but I started with 2, and we watched the third one, yeah, now, so the 4th is upon us. And oh yeah, and I watched on YouTube, with a Minimal Mom interview with, I forgot her name, someone who had a TED Talk on, I want to say her wardrobe, I don't know, but the interview is about clothes at any rate, how you can basically how you can declutter and minimize your wardrobe to a more manageable sort of size and state. And I found this interview, even though my wardrobe is already pretty minimal, but I found this interview very fun and helpful also in other respects when it comes to like intentional living and slow living and minimalism and careful consumerism and what all you might want to call it. So I'm going to link this video down below because I thought it was much more inspiring actually than the actual TED Talk, which I watched after, which I didn't find all that inspiring, but the interview with Dawn of the Minimal Mom, I really enjoyed that one. And oh yeah, by the way, I've been watching the Minimal Mom so much, and as I'm decluttering, I'm in a decluttering phase again, sort of. But yeah, and the first thing that so the Minimal Mom that I've also linked in previous videos is about decluttering and minimalism, right? Minimal family life. And Brené Brown in the foreword of her book starts off talking about decluttering, about minimalism, and about how she's been Marie Kondo before Marie Kondo was ever on the horizon, and so on, right? So that I thought it was beautiful how that tied in with like my topic of these past few weeks or months even. Right, but yeah, that's what I've been watching. And I have been listening to the Vogue Knitting podcast, so an audio podcast that I also discovered on Spotify. Discovered is sort of weird because it's been around for a while, but I just didn't listen to it. And they interview, well, just people in the industry, and I've only listened to a few podcasts, like Meg Robinson, who is Elizabeth Zimmerman's daughter. I have listened to the Stephen West one, to Debbie Bliss. So some of the very first ones that they ever made, those interviews that ever came out, and that's also a very like fun podcast. Podcast that I can recommend if you haven't listened to that already. You might want to, I don't know, check it out. Okay, guys, and so that's that. That's all I have to share with you today. I don't know how long I've been talking, but for quite a while. So I'm going to end it here and let you go. As always, feel free to like and subscribe below. If you want to leave a comment with a question that you have for me, that you might have for me, that would be really cool, because I am still planning on doing a little Q&A video. I haven't forgotten about that. I'm going to get around to doing it. And if you have a question for that video, please leave it down in the comments. That would be really fun. And if you feel that you want to support this podcast in any way, shape, or form, please head over to my Ko-fi page, which you will find down in the description box with the show notes. And you might you can get me a little cup of coffee, or I will always interpret it as a little cup of tea, of black tea or green tea for that matter. Don't feel any pressure or expectation at all. If you just want to hang and listen to me ramble on and just be here and spend some time with me here on the podcast, that is absolutely fine. You're more than welcome to just be here. But if you feel inclined to support the podcast in a small little way, then you may decide to head over there. I'm just going to put it out there that this page exists. Find something a little to mend in your life, to make it last longer. We all have stuff that we think, oh man, I have to buy a new one, a new set of this, and a certain item that broke or seems to have broken. But more often than not, we can actually mend the stuff and not buy new. So be mindful of the little things in your life, in your household, in your family, on your kids' bodies that have come undone, that are broken, that need mending. Which is my weird way of saying not only clothes can be mended, but items, right? And my kids are always very happy when we glue together a broken Playmobil, or whatever it is that's been broken, that has broken. So, which is always fun for me to see, because they want to keep the stuff that they have. They don't want replacements all the time. They want to keep the things that they've grown attached to, right? And so I think do we. So that's how it was intended. So let's mend the things that we have and keep them for a long time. And also be reminded that just because it's Christmas season or holiday season, it doesn't mean that we have to get crazy and buy all the things and get stressed out and hectic. And we can ease into that season and make slow and deliberate decisions of like the things that we want to buy and gift or wish for. And there are also non-material things that you can give someone, help them, go on a little trip with them, invite them for dinner, go on a long walk with them. I don't know, do something fun with your friends and family. Spend time with them rather than get them stuff. That is very big on my list, on our list for this year, that we try to give every family member some of our time. Like we're gonna try and gift everyone something that we can do with them. that's something that we want to achieve as a family this year, to like really have some fun under the tree, but also fun moments and experiences and, you know, memories ahead of us that we can really look forward to as the, you know, the new year starts and we start making plans and picking out dates and to go to different places, not necessarily in holidays, but just like little things that you can do in one day. Right, so now I'm going to really let you go. Thank you so much for hanging with me. Happy knitting or happy making, crochet, whatever it is. And I will see you next time. Take care. Bye.